What do you think WB is getting right and wrong with the DCEU?
They had a plan, sort of.
It's the new characters that are paying off.
He had it all figured out.
Expanding to the rest of their roster is exactly what they need.
If you're not careful, Stanton, people are going to think you're positive.
I kind of give them props that they are ambitious.
I worry a lot.
James Bond can't keep continuity with just one character.
It feels like they film rough drafts.
They're definitely following. No doubt.
Before I ask the next question, though, I want to read a segment from a piece that came out in the New York Times. Has a byline from a gentleman by the name of Brooke Barnes, who covers the Hollywood beat for the New York Times. Title of the piece was called "Managing Movie Superheroes is About to Get a Lot More Complicated." Now, ostensibly, this was supposed to be a piece that sort of examined what some of the big brands are doing in terms of the Mylerverse at Netflix, what the DCEU is doing, and what the MCU is doing, what we're looking forward to in terms of the amount of content each of those franchises is going to be pumping out. Now, I say ostensibly that's what it was all about, but in reality, it turned out to be much more of a profile on Walter Hamada, the studio chief at WB himself. And the article probably turns out to be one of the richest sources of information about future plans for the DCEU. And I sort of thought of it as a soft answer to Disney Investor Day. So Disney came with all this fanfare and talking about all their projects, and they brought trailers and they bought growth numbers for Disney Plus, and then WB felt like they had to get a quick answer out there for their investors to sort of feel comfortable about their plans. And so this piece sort of quickly followed or materialized after Disney Investor Day. But I want to read a segment from the piece. The most expensive DC movies, up to 4 a year starting in 2022, are designed for release in theaters, Mr. Hamada said. Additional superhero films, 2 annually is the goal, perhaps focused on riskier characters like Batgirl and Static Shock, will arrive exclusively on HBOMax, the fledgling streaming service owned by Warner Media. In addition, DC Films, which is a part of Warner Brothers, will work with filmmakers to develop movie offshoots, TV series that will run on HBOMax and interconnect with their big screen endeavors. Here's a quote from Walter Hamada. "With every movie that we're looking at now, we are thinking, what's the potential Max spinoff?" So in the context of that, I'd like to ask the question of the panel, what do you think WB is getting right and wrong with the DCEU? It seems like they want to pump out a lot of different content. They don't immediately have a plan for what order this content goes in, so forth and so on. But I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm going to point to my first champion on this. I am going to give Stanton a shot at fielding this particular question. What do you think they're getting right and wrong, given what you've heard about some of the strategy they have with spin-offs and theatrical releases?
I want to give them some props here. I think that their idea of getting to new characters is exactly what they need to do. I've thought that my entire life. I think where they've been kind of wrong at this point is that they've relied so much on their Trinity, their big iconic characters, and I'd love to see them. I would love to see them get to some of these characters like Static Shock. I don't know anything about Static Shock, to be honest, but I really like to see them doing that. I love that they've pumped up Harley Quinn. I love that they've gotten Shazam on screen and those types of things. I think they could be doing more to integrate those characters. I call it giving them a rub. Use what you've got that is working strongly. Use the characters people already love. Get these secondary characters in with them so that they kind of share the limelight, and then let them be what they are. That's kind of the strength of an interconnected universe. I think just letting them exist on their own and not doing that, while it's not a bad thing, you can do obviously completely solo movies. You can have them be completely independent without doing big major crossovers. But I do think you're missing an opportunity to to kind of give them more relevance and give them more importance. But regardless, I think the idea of expanding to the rest of their roster is exactly what they need to do. So I give them a whole lot of props for that. I want to say that utilizing the Max service is what they need to do. We're seeing right now with WandaVision, and I have full confidence in Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Hawkeye and all these other shows in the MCU, that using that type of service to expand on some of these other smaller stories is a great tool. I can't honestly say that I have a lot of confidence that they're going to be tremendously effective in elevating these characters with that service, but they really could. I hope they do. I'm kind of left in this sort of wait and see type of mindset, but I do think that it is a great platform and a great tool to be able to use that. So I'm hoping it works out for them. I'm hoping they elevate some of these other characters. I'm hoping they expand their offerings and they're able to sort of elevate their entire brand by doing it.
Well, if you're not careful, Stanton, people are going to think you're positive on the DCEU. They're going to think you're bullish on the DCEU. But that being said, I want to turn to Taylor. Given the context of the quote, and I know the quote was long, so the thrust of it is basically we're going to get more from the DCEU starting in 2022. They're going to be pushing out 4 films a year, and each one of those 4 films is going to be looked at for whether it has HBOMax spinoff potential. What do you think's right, and what do you think is wrong about that particular strategy in terms of the way they're thinking?
Streaming services are part of the industry now. Right? They are going to be integrated in one way, shape, or form. So it's smart that they are looking at that and looking at how to get the balance between the theatrical and the streaming, because it's not going away. And Marvel is already embracing it. I agree with Arch that I kind of give them props that they are ambitious. They are not hiding. They're not pulling back as much as I actually thought they might a couple of years ago. But they are moving forward full steam. And I hope Hamada has a plan. I hope he has the organization skills. Because I mentioned 2 problems the DCU had earlier. The third problem is organization. They haven't had organization. And it's easy to say. And all those things that Arch said he wishes they would do, that's all real easy to say too. And Marvel makes it look easy. But no one else other than the MCU has ever achieved it in all of human history, as I pointed out before. So when you're trying to bring, James Bond can't keep continuity with just one character, let alone trying to bring in 10 or 12 different characters in a shared universe and keep continuity. Not to mention all the behind the scenes stuff, the actors, the directors, the cinematographers, the writers, and AT&T and Warner Brothers concerns, because the bottom line, of course, is the biggest concern. But I also agree, I like that they're going with some new characters. Let's look at the DCU so far. If you look at their most profitable movies so far, based on budget to box office, and also I hate looking at box office because movies make money for decades after they leave box office. But for the sake of the discussion, if you look at the budget to the box office, the most profitable movies in the DCEU are Aquaman, Suicide Squad, and Wonder Woman, which was the first theatrically released Wonder Woman movie ever. So it's the new characters that are paying off for them so far, paying off the most for them so far. There have been no box office flops in the DCU, by the way. There have been not reaching expectations. Again, those expectations are real easy to have and hard to achieve. But there haven't been any actual box office flops. So I like that they haven't given up. They didn't throw in the towel like the Dark Universal Monsters did after one movie. They're still trying. They're trying new things. Hopefully they'll work.
R.I.P. Dark Universe. Great answer there, Taylor, and I'm loving the enthusiasm here. And you're right to point out that they have had their share of hits, and nothing in their roster has actually been an abject failure. So that being said, if I'm to parse out what you're saying, I think you're excited about the fact that there's going to be more content coming in more channels, but you're a little trepidatious about the organization and the planning that might go around that. And I tend to share your sentiments exactly. I'm going to turn to Grandmaster to sort of get your take on this particular question. We know they're going to start pumping out a lot of new content starting in 2022. And it feels like they're doing this really to be competitive. Marvel is also on a similar trajectory. They're going to be putting out 4 movies per year, and they're also going to be doing tons of tie-ins with Disney Plus. So is the DCEU, is Warner Brothers sort of following the leader, or do you think that there's opportunity here for them to be trendsetters?
No, they're definitely following. No doubt. Yeah, just be honest. I mean, the MCU has been doing this for a while, and they are desperate to catch up, but I'm afraid they won't. The DCEU, when it started, they had a plan, sort of. I mean, there was Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder had a plan. He had it all figured out. Was it a good plan? I don't think so. Because his plan was to make every character like Batman, and that just simply doesn't work. It was too much of the same. They stepped away from that with Wonder Woman had a different tone and style. Aquaman had a different tone and style. So they changed the plan while they were cranking out movies. And that hurt them, basically. Now they're gonna crank out a whole lot of movies and TV shows. I mean, 6 movies a year, 4 for the theater, 2 exclusively for HBOMax, and then TV spin-offs. I worry a lot because it doesn't sound like they have an idea or where they want to go and how to get there. They're just gonna see that's DC's or Warner Brothers, as Arch rightly so point out earlier, Warner Brothers' problem. They just put out a movie. Hey, that works. We're gonna do that again with other characters. At least that's how it feels like it to me. I mean, Nolan made an excellent trilogy with Batman, the Dark Knight trilogy, and then they thought, hey, this works, so we're gonna make Man of Steel, but we make Superman, and we do it in the same style, and we make Man of Steel also, but that doesn't work for Superman, and that's the mistake they constantly seem to make. We have a popular character in Harley Quinn in the Suicide Squad. You know what? We're gonna make a Birds of Prey movie. We'll put Harley Quinn in there, and that will sell. It just doesn't feel like a plan. And if they can keep on doing this, then it doesn't matter how much they follow the leader. It will never really work. And you need to start with a plan. You need to start with somebody overseeing that plan, who knows the characters, who knows the differences about the characters, and can tie it all together. The MCU has done that perfectly with Mr. Kevin Feige, and that's the big problem for Warner Brothers DC. They don't have a Kevin Feige. And as long as they don't fix that, it doesn't matter how much they are going to do with their universe, it's never going to work. And to me, I would prefer if DC just made standalone things instead of a universe, because they're very good at standalone films. See Joker, for instance. What you think of the movie, you can think of it, but bottom line, it's a good movie. It made a ton of money, and I would suggest go on with that. But if they are so hell-bent on making a universe work, they should make a plan first. And it seems to me with DC, Warner Brothers DC, they always do things the other way around. They just make movies, and then they tie it together with some sort of plan. But yeah, it doesn't feel right.
All right. There we have the Grandmaster's take on it, and he is a little downbeat. I would say that the lack of organization is troubling to our benevolent dictator. But I want to take a follow-on from Stanton. What did you have to add to the Grandmaster's commentary?
I'll go back to the idea that standalone movies are fine. I think they could do more. I think just doing standalone movies is kind of missing a big opportunity, but it's fine. If they want to do standalone movies and they want to do them well, it's not like that can't work, and it's not like it can't be great or anything. It's not. I just think it's missing an opportunity. But the thing is they haven't done well at those standalone movies. I mean, you can watch. I'll leave Joker for what it is. I'll make a point that I don't really consider it too much of a comic book movie. I think if you took the clown make off him, you don't even think that's a Joker movie. But regardless, it is a good movie. I will go with that. But the thing is, they're way too inconsistent, and I don't mean inconsistent in style. I mean inconsistent on it even making sense. Like you could go through half of these movies and like you're just like, wait, why did that happen? It's like it feels like they film rough drafts. I really, when I'm watching half of their films, feel like I'm watching somebody who wrote this script out the night before, or maybe hired a middle school student to do it and showed up and filmed the thing. I don't know. That's the way I feel about them. So I am hopeful with them expanding out, and I'm hopeful that means they have a plan. But if they don't get in there and understand how to put together like a decent script on a consistent basis, then it's not going to matter. They're just going to have more Suicide Squad and more just whatever, Wonder Woman 84, just stuff that just kind of exists and it's there and it's the characters on screen and I'm not going to care. But Joker was good, so I'll just leave it at that.
Guys, I want to thank you for the incredible discussion you brought to the table in this blistering first round of talk about the DCEU. We've touched on sentiment. We've touched on strategy. I want to close with a final comment from the Grandmaster before we start to do a deep dive. If you are at home, get settled in, get your snacks, get your cola, get your drink, because the conversation is really crackling here. Grandmaster, close us out on this segment of the show.
Yeah, to follow up on what Art said, I think what happens is the writers, directors, they pitch movies to the studio, and Kevin Feige gets those pitches and he looks, what can I fit into my MCU? What can work? What will not work? And what works, he starts working on that to integrate that into his plan. Maybe he even gives orders to writers and directors. Hey, can you make a pitch for that? Because we need that right now coming up in our universe. And to me, it feels the other way around with DC. They just make a movie and do another movie and we say it's connected. If you see Aquaman and you see Justice League, there's already an inconsistency in that. I mean, in Aquaman they make a big deal, and Aquaman is after Justice League, just to make sure. In Aquaman they make a big deal that Arthur Curry has not been to Atlantis. Well, he has been to Atlantis in Justice League. That was the movie that was preceding it. It doesn't make sense. They constantly crap on their own stuff, and that's what annoying to me. It's just forget about that universe. Just make your standalone movies. It's much better.
I can sense the frustration here. I can sense that you feel like you're probably being talked down to, that there's a level of quality that the DCEU might need to approach before it can even begin to touch the universal acclaim of something like the MCU. But guys, if you're at home, please stay tuned. We are about to deep dive into the strategic overlook of the DCEU, what WB has planned, what specific things they're going to be doing to sort of explain this big push of content that starts next year.